What a ride. That was really great until I blew a tire. Now, what am I going to do with this inner tube? I've got an idea. Hi, I'm Anna with Henrico Recreation and Parks Department, and I love jewelry. And I enjoy riding bikes too. But what I've done is put the two together and found an activity that I think it's a game changer. So for those of you that love to ride bikes and always wonder, what do I do with an inner tube? You want to recycle it or upcycle it? I found jewelry that can be made from inner tubes. So if you really want to try this, you can go buy yourself an inner tube or use an old tire inner tube from a bike or just about anything. But what you want is a thin inner tube. And when you cut it open, it has this dry powder inside. But what we're going to do is I've cut a piece and it's very pliable, so it works well with scissors. And I've cut a little piece here so you can see when I open it up, it's got a white powdery film to it. What you need to do first is wash that off. A little bit of soap and water, just scrub it really good, and that takes care of that. And then you can have a piece of inner tube and cut a section that you think you'd like about the size of whatever you want to make. Make a template. I've tried to freehand this. I'm not as good as I'd like to think I am. So by creating templates or just using some paper makes me a little more accurate. Today I'm just going to kind of walk you through the ins and outs of making jewelry with inner tubes and show you a little bit about how I did it and maybe some hacks to help you get through it too. So first of all, I've got my dry, clean inner tube. And if I wanted to do something with a curve to it, I can just lay this on my inner tube, and I tried with a white pencil, colored pencil. It didn't mark as well as I wanted it to. I did just take a regular pencil and mark with that. It leaves a bit of a line, but you kind of have to tilt it in the light to see that line if you want to cut it. So those are some ways to get you a template onto your tire. And scissors. Scissors are the easiest way to cut this. I'm going to show you what it looks like when I use a craft knife or an X-Acto knife, because basically you can make anything out of an inner tube that you would make with leather. It's just as pliable as leather, but it stretches, whereas leather does not. So using an X-Acto knife or a craft knife when you're cutting, it will pull and stretch your tire, your inner tube. But if it's a straight line, I recommend scissors, or even a big curved outer line works well. I've used a template to make a circle because I'm not really good at freehand circles. But I wanted to make a piece today that was just a bunch of strips. So really, you just need several strips of inner tube. So this is where I could cut straight strips. And I'm going to kind of work my hands up because, again, scissors kind of make not a straight line too with your inner tube. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them at 3 different lengths. You can see they're not straight, but I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. I'm going to let you be the perfectionist. So I've got one long piece. I'm going to cut that there. Yep, and you can see it doesn't cut all the way through and it stretches. So I've got one chunky end. I don't want that. Then I want another piece that's a little shorter. I'm just going to cut it a little shorter. So I want 3 different lengths. So in order to put my piece together, you're going to need jump rings or O-rings. And basically it's a little piece of metal in a circle that's split in one piece so that you can open it up and put your inner tube onto it. To make the hole to go into the jump ring, there's a couple of options. I have an awl here that I can stab through and pull and make a hole. It makes a tiny hole, and when I pull it out, it kind of stretches back into shape. So it's really hard to get the hole. I also have a leather tool punch, which is the ideal piece that I love. It's got all different sizes, and you can take these out to make bigger or smaller sizes, but this punches an actual hole in the leather itself. So this makes a nice little hole for you to slide your O-ring through, or if you're just going straight into your jewelry findings. I'm going to make one on each end. And now I'm ready to put this through my jump ring or my O-ring. You need 2 pliers, flat nose pliers. These are 2 different ones, but they're flat. And what this is going to do, it's going to open my O-ring or my jump ring. And your jump ring is a circle with an O, it's cut. When you open a jump ring, you don't want to open it this way because it will bend the metal and it's hard to get it back into an O. You want to bend it this way. So by holding one in place with the flat nose plier, and I'm going to take my other one and bend them away from each other. Now I'm going to put my long piece on, then my middle piece, then my short piece. This gets a little tricky because it's just tiny little pieces, so sometimes it's hard to hold. Then I'm going to reverse that, and I'm going to go my little piece. This is where it's going to maybe get hard. And push them on around, maybe give me a little more space. And then my middle piece. So this is where it can be tricky. I'm going to go back to my needle nose pliers. Those will give me a little more space to work with. There. Okay, this might be hard because they're thick. So I'm going to cut a little edge off that's a little too thick. And try to get them back into the O-ring shape. Just a little bit of effort there. But I've got my, might be harder to see. If you cut each one a little longer than the other, more than I did, you'll see a layer there of the 3 together. So my earring finding is very much the same thing. It's like an O-ring at the very end. So I need to hold it to open it up and not open it away from each other, but sideways. And there is my inner tube earring. So like I said, you can do anything with an inner tube that you would do with leather. You could make bracelets, you could make pendants, just about anything. And here are some examples that I've got on the table. I've added beads to embellish things. I've also just used my punch to punch holes and create an effect that way, as well as even just use acrylic paint to paint it, to kind of give you a scene or to add some dimension to it. So this was a super fun project that I just had a great time being creative with and trying new things and discovering all kinds of ways to upcycle an inner tube. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll show me some of your pieces that you've made. Thanks for joining me.